There is nothing quite like being interviewed. You're supposed to be casual and comfortable while also presenting the best version of yourself and convincing the person in the chair in front of you that they will want to spend 8 hours a day, every weekday with you for the next few years of their life. And you're also supposed to portray the most perfect version of yourself. It's quite a balancing act. I have been on both sides of the interviewer's desk a handful of times, so I'm gonna compile a couple of lessons that I've learned from being on both sides of the desk and share them with you today. So the first tip that I have for you is be prepared ahead of time. Before the actual interview takes place, I recommend Googling interview questions so that you know what might be thrown at you. The next thing, do your research about the company. I have seen lots of people that give advice about interviewing say this, but for some reason, people still don't do it. I recommend grabbing a notebook and writing out what the company does, who do they serve, who's their main market. That way you can have a firm understanding of what they do so that you are knowledgeable when you arrive at the interview. Lesson number 3. Arrive 15 minutes early to your interview. People often have trouble finding a balance between too early or too late. So if you arrive too early to your interview, you might seem overeager. If the interviewer finds out how early you arrived, they might feel pressure to rearrange their schedule to accommodate you, and you don't want that. But if you arrive late, you're demonstrating that you're either irresponsible or you don't value that interviewer's time, which is not good. So whenever you're arriving 15 minutes early, what you're doing is you're giving yourself time to accommodate if there are problems with traffic. You show that you are eager, but you're not desperate. And you're also giving yourself time to acclimate to the interview environment. So you get a feel for what the office is like, and you have some time to prepare while you're there, instead of just imagining what the inside of the office might be like. So really, part of this step is make sure that you know exactly where to go the day of the interview. Make sure that you're not just scoping out what this building looks like 5 minutes before it's supposed to start. I've even gone so far as to actually drive to the location where the interview will be held the day before, just so that I know exactly where I need to go. The next tip, whenever the interviewer asks, "Do you have any questions for me?" have a question ready. Again, I see this one on a lot of interviewing tips and interviewing advice websites, but for some reason people still don't do it. So this is a great way to get those questions for yourself. Whenever you're doing your research about the company, you're writing down things in your notebook, anytime that you have a question, like, oh, I wonder what that looks like, I wonder what this is, I wonder what they do in this industry, write that down in your notebook. And make sure that you have 4 or 5 questions ready. That way, in case the interviewer answers a couple of them during the interview process, you've got another one to go to. If you still need some help coming up with questions, here are a few that I like to ask, because these are things that I genuinely want to know about a company. What industries do they perform in? What's their company culture like? Do they tend to be more casual or more formal? What does a daily schedule look like for an employee there? So that's just a few. Hopefully that gets your wheels turning whenever you're writing these questions down. So here's the next tip, and it kind of goes along with the last tip, but I have a lot to say about it. So whenever the interviewer says, "Do you have any questions for me?" do not say, "When do I start?" Oh my gosh, there have been so many interviews that have been pretty good interviews that turned into interviews whenever somebody asks me that question. Let me just tell you, you ain't cute, okay? Come up with a real question. Be prepared. Let them decide if you are qualified for the position based on what you bring to the table. Don't try to force them into hiring you because you've made them uncomfortable. Here's number 6. Bring a notebook and a writing utensil. A good interviewer will understand that this is a high-pressure situation and that an organized and well-prepared person will have a writing utensil and some paper ready so that they can take notes if there's anything they want to remember later. Here are a couple things that you can use these materials for. To refer to if your interviewer asks if you have questions. So if you wrote down your questions from earlier, you can absolutely take a look in your notebook and say, okay, here's a question for you. You can also use your notebook to take notes if the interviewer says something important that you want to make sure you remember. Here's what you should not use your notebook for. It is not a cheat sheet with a list of your accomplishments. Make sure that you have those fresh on the top of your mind. You can absolutely write them down. I like to write down things like that because that helps me remember them, but don't refer to them in the middle of your interview. I was actually in an interview once And the interviewer called me out because I didn't have a notebook and a writing utensil. They said, "You say that you're organized, but I don't see any evidence of that." To be honest, at the time I didn't know that that was common practice. I didn't know that that was okay, but I'm older and I'm wiser, and so I want to share this tip with you. Lesson 7, be yourself. And I know that that sounds like a cliche, so let me just explain what I mean here. The interview process is a time for both you and the company to decide if you would be a good fit for this position. So you need to show your true colors as early as possible. You don't want them to hire you based on a misconception of who you are and what you work like. If that happens, then you guys are both going to be in for some disappointment later on down the line. Similarly, the company also needs to be honest with you about what it's like to work there and what they expect of you. So this is a time to brag a little bit, to show off what you've done. This is one of the few times where it's okay to be a little bit of a know-it-all. Take this time to really examine your accomplishments and bring that to the table. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that it's helpful for you if you're going into an interview process. Best of luck to you. Be sure to thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video. I put out new videos once a week. Also be sure to check out my website. It's www.beagoalgetter.net. I've got lots of blog posts and content that I post more than once a week there. And lastly, you can connect with us on Facebook at GoalGetters Unite and GoalGetter Insta on Instagram. Thanks, guys.